Well, here's a voicemail we received earlier this week from one of our listeners named Chris.
I thank you for your ministry. I'm here in New Jersey. I've been listening to you for some time, and I just wanted to say I've been a Christian for about 30-something years, and I wanted to know what your consideration is of fulfilled eschatology. I have been coming to that acknowledgement, leaving amillennialism and seeing basically Christ has fulfilled it all. I'd like to know your view on that. Thank you.
Yeah. So eschatology is the study of the last things. And we're thinking about the end times here. And there's a lot of, confusion about this specifically. We just talked about the book of Revelation in our Revelation study. I think that could shed some light on this. But let me say a couple of things first. There are differences that Christians have with regard to the end times, but those differences don't determine whether or not we're believers. So somebody who disagrees with you or with me on this specifically, that doesn't make them not a Christian. This is something that we can, as we approach Scripture and study the Bible, have differences on. Now, my view, where I lean, it sounds to me like this is where you're leaning to as well, is the amillennial view. The amillennial view, and when we're talking about the millennium, where you go to in Scripture is Revelation chapter 20, where John says in verse 1, I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. And he seized the dragon, the ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the pit and shut it and sealed it over him, so that he might not deceive the nations any longer until the 1,000 years were ended. So the 1,000 years, the millennium, that's where that talk comes from. It's from here in Revelation chapter 20. And the amillennial view, which is the view that I take, is that 1,000 years described in Revelation 20 is a figurative number, symbolic. It's not a literal 1,000 years. And that right now, Jesus Christ is presently reigning as the gospel is advancing in the world. His kingdom has been inaugurated, right? It's already here in one sense, and yet there's a sense in which it's not yet. It has yet to be consummated. It will be consummated at the second coming. And so the amillennial view believes or understands that Christ comes after that millennial reign, if you will. Same thing with the postmillennial view, a little bit different there from amillennialism. The postmillennial view of the end times believes that Jesus is going to come back after a reign that he executes here on earth, a time of peace and prosperity where the gospel is advancing throughout the world. And the premillennial view differs from both of those. And there are many, many Christians who embrace the premillennial view, which is the view that Jesus is going to come back prior to the millennial reign. So he's going to come back, and then he's going to establish his kingdom on earth and reign literally here on earth for 1,000 years. And so those are some of the differences. Again, Revelation 20 is the key text. I lean towards the amillennial view. If you're looking for a book that would be helpful in learning more about that, there's a book called A Case for Amillennialism, Understanding the End Times by Kim Riddlebarger. I would recommend that book, and appreciate you calling in and digging into the Scriptures.